Yo, 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 welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's Chris, I am your host, and I'm super excited to be back here having the conversation with you. Episode 175 today, and we're talking about a key concept, and I actually alluded to it last week's episode in episode 174, and that topic is should versus must. Now, this actually comes from an article of inspiration that I found while I was just browsing the internet. I like to browse on medium.com. And it comes from Ali Luna, and it's about the crossroads of should and must. So I started to dive into it a little bit, and it became very relevant and makes so much sense. And it is relevant to furthering your lifestyle. And I wanted to also explore these two different paths around what we face in life, which is essentially should and the path of must. And I'll get into the topics of definition of these in a minute, but before we do roll the intro, what we're going to go into is I'm going to take you through each one, help you understand what should and what must means and what does that look like and the impacts that it has. But then we're going to address it into these, I think it's 3 key areas of themes, right? 1, self-discovery. 2, courage and authenticity. And then 3 will be overcoming fear. And then we'll probably talk about a few other little things as we wrap up. So it is a jam-packed episode. Buckle up, get cozy. If this resonates with you, then please share it with someone else. You can drop a comment down below as well if you want to continue the conversation. And if you are new here, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and that really does help the podcast grow. If you're here on the YouTube, that is. Otherwise, if you're over on one of the streaming platforms, whether it's Spotify or maybe Apple Podcasts, then by all means, please give a little review there as well. Let's roll the intro and let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to understand what is this whole concept of should and the implications of it and what does it mean. So if I read it out from a definition standpoint, should represents the expectations and the obligations imposed by society, family, and oneself. It encompasses all the things people feel they are supposed to be doing, driven by external pressures and conventional thinking. The key points here are external expectations. Should is often based on what others expect of us, right? Such as social norms or societal norms or cultural traditions or family obligations or traditions, which some of this is fine, but some of it is really bad, right? And you can probably make that decision yourself. The other point here is conventional thinking. It involves following a path that is deemed acceptable and safe only by the majority. And when you're a minority, you feel like, you don't feel safe, you don't feel secure, or you feel left out, so therefore you fall back to the conventional thinking like a sheep following its flock or a herd of sheep to its slaughter. And then the third point is pressure and obligation. People often feel pressured to conform to should in order to fit in or to gain approval or to avoid conflict. Now, I struggle with some of this big time because I'm a people pleaser. I don't like to let people down. But I also like to bring out the best version possible, and I also like to think of things in a positive manner that maybe there's a better understanding for this. But sometimes you can get pushed over by doing that, so take that into account. I've got a couple of examples for you. So, for instance, you might pursue a career chosen by a family tradition rather than a personal interest. Another one might be you might get married by a certain age because it's expected by society, or you might choose a hobby or activity that is popular or socially accepted rather than one that you truly enjoy or want to dwell into. So there is a big impact from this, right? By focusing on the shoulds, we tend to have a lack of fulfillment, right? Following a should can lead to a sense of dissatisfaction and unfulfilled potential. And we want the best for you. I want the best for you anyway. And by not doing what you want and focusing on what you should be doing because that's what everyone says, you won't feel fulfilled in the long run anyway. It also creates stress and anxiety. Trying to meet these external expectations can cause huge weighted stress and anxiety just for the unnecessarily, right? Unnecessarily. So that's a big point for me. Mental health is a big one. And then the final point impact is inauthentic living. You're not even living to your true self when you follow all these shoulds or when you do what you should because of what people have said you should do, right? Now, let's not get this confused with your obligations around your responsibilities and your accountabilities. That's different. I'm talking about the pressures and unstated expectations because of our own insecurities because we think that this is the only way to do it because we see others doing it that way. Focus on being your true version, and then we can remove that lack of fulfillment. We can leave that stress and anxiety at the door, and we can become our authentic selves. So let's understand must, right? And again, I'll define it out for you and we'll go through some key points. The definition of must is represents an individual's true calling, passion, and authentic self, about following one's inner voice and pursuing what one genuinely loves and believes in, even if it means stepping away from societal norms. So the key points here is the inner voice, right? It's guided by what you truly want and what you truly believe in. And it reflects on your deepest desires and passions. You know it. You know it. Don't hide it. Don't be a turtle and hide it in your shell. Let it out. And that's the next key point, which is authenticity. It means we live a life that is true to who we are and who we say we are and who we want to be, rather than conforming to what others expect or assume or suggest. And it takes courage and it takes a lot of risk. But when we follow must, it often requires us to be brave and be willing to take the risks. One, to be ourselves, but it can also involve significant changes and stepping into the unknown because maybe it's a path unknown. No one's treaded it before, which makes sense because no one else is you, right? You are you, and you need to build that and create what that looks like. So some examples of this is changing careers to follow a passion, even if it means you have to start over. Maybe pursuing a creative endeavor like writing, art, or music, or maybe it doesn't have the practical considerations, but it's still something that you're interested in. And then the third one would be maybe making a lifestyle choice that aligns to your personal values, such as sustainable living or minimalism, and it's quite different to everyone else. These are all just examples. I'm not saying this is what it should be or what it will be, but they're just ideas of what other people are doing. So how does this have an impact on us, right? I think, again, fulfillment and joy being a big one, but it brings out the deeper sense of satisfaction and joy, growth and learning. By following the musts of what we want, it often involves personal growth, getting out of our comfort zones, learning. It does actually help us become that true version of ourselves and our best version of ourselves. And then it builds that authentic relationships. It means that if we're living authentically, that can lead to more genuine and fulfilling relationships with others. And they will respond to your true self because that's who you're showing them. You're not showing them something else that you think you should be, but you're showing them the person you must be because that is you. So the whole idea around this is it leads to a path of authenticity, right? And I've already touched on that a bit, but that's the key element here is we want to be our true selves because at some point it's going to want to come out and you don't want to fight that. It's not going to be nice. So at the start of this episode, I said there's going to be a number of key themes that I want to touch on, which is self-discovery, courage and authenticity, and overcoming fear. And the first one is self-discovery. And a lot of this will play over to the points we've already talked about, but self-discovery, like it really comes down to, we said this, so introspection in identifying what our true passions are and desires. And I spoke about this in last week's episode. I finished it on it, actually. Understanding is like, take a moment to pull back, zoom out, and understand what are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you doing what you're doing? Like, why are you working the job you work? Where are you in life? What are you working towards? How did you get here? Is this what you want? All these different things. Like that self-reflection, and maybe you already do this. Maybe you do it through journaling, maybe you do it through meditation, but you need to find a way to get this information through a self-reflection process. And it might be seeking feedback from other people, but just take a moment, press pause, and figure out the importance of what it is that you're doing, and does it align to your true desires and to your true passions? Because if not, you got to do something about it. You need to recognize what is a should and what is a must. Because a should is going to be controlled by someone else. Not controlled, sorry. It's going to be influenced or coming from an outwards perspective. Now, I'd say that sometimes a should and a must might align, because maybe it is what you want. And it just so happens that's just the way other people have said, because they've been helping you say that, no, this is what we think you should do. But is it what you must do to get where you want to be, right? And that's where you need to call that. Does it align with who you are, who you want to be, your values, your idea, and is it going to help you further your lifestyle? Number 2 was then courage and authenticity. And for me, I wanted to start a business. I wanted to have my own business. I didn't know what it looked like, but it meant it was a must. I had to step away from working for someone else if I wanted to see that happen. I had to take the courage and I had to be authentic with myself and figure out what's that going to look like. I had to face my fears and I had to step away and make that happen. I had to explore the challenges of it, right? I had to really step away from that society norm of working the 9 to 5, comfort of a nice 6-figure salary coming in, no problems. But I had to work my butt off. I had to do it to help build someone else's dream. And that's scary as heck, but you need to embrace that, right? Whatever that courage is, or whatever it requires you to do, that's what it will take. And that's the only way. Unfortunately, that is the only way. You need to explore that. And it will mean you have to get a little uncomfortable. And look, keeping it short and sharp, that leads into overcoming fear, right? When we break free from the shoulds, when we let go of the common fears or the barriers or the things that chain us to this path of should, we become free. We can be free. We can be ourselves and we can start to actually move towards where we want to be. And I think it just comes down to, there's no perfect way of doing this, but if you're feeling the friction, if you're challenging yourself, why am I doing this? There's obviously something else you would rather be doing. And how do you get there? I think it comes down to really just making sure you understand that and then start to work through, what does that potentially look like? What does this mean? What will this require? Now, for me, I wanted something so bad that I was willing to walk away from the comfort of a jobs and all those things. And 4 years later, I'm still not even making the same amount, right? But I am living the life that I totally love, totally enjoy, and I'm building something which I'm going to be I'm proud of it now, but I'm going to be even more proud of it because I know it's going to be bigger, better, and more fulfilling in the long run. Not just for me, but for my loved ones as well. So that's the benefit of taking such big risks, but they're risks. They're going to be unknowns. They're going to mean you're going to have to get uncomfortable. That's the reality of it. So I want to finish with a quote, and that quote is, the 2 most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. And that's from Mark Twain. Beautiful quote, because when you know what you want, when you know why you're doing something, when you know what you're doing and what's it going to lead to and the opportunity, it's fulfilling, it's motivating, and it's encouraging. There will be days where things suck, things aren't great, it's not all sunshine and rainbows or unicorn farts, but the average is better than bad, right? And you're doing something which is going to pay the dividends of your life legacy, of what you wanted, and what you're creating something, which is you're creating the best version of yourself. And that's really what it comes down to. Are you wanting to continue to do the things that you should do because this is what everyone else has done? And that's the way we do it. And this is what they expect. Go to school, get an education, get a bank loan, get a house, work a job, and that's it. Or are you going to create something? Or are you going to become the world's next best artist? Maybe you just want to play soccer for a living and you don't even have to be the best. Maybe you want to open Pokemon cards. Maybe you want to start a podcast. Maybe you want to be a builder. Maybe you want to be a tradie. Maybe you want to raise puppies. I don't know. I don't know what you want to do. Only you do. And that's why you need to make sure you figure out what that is and start working towards that. And do the musts that are going to get you there. Don't do the shoulds that other people are saying unless that aligns to the musts that you must do in order to get what you want, in order to further your lifestyle. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to continue the conversation, more than happy to do so. You can jump down below here on the YouTube and leave a comment. Drop a message and we can have that chat. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, hit the like button, reach out and connect, or leave a review on one of the different podcast platforms. And we'll be back here next week doing it all again. I really appreciate being able to spend this time and have these conversations with you. It means even the world to me even more when I hear from you. So if you enjoy this, please let me know. Please share it. And you have a wonderful day. Cheers.